Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to be diving into Micron technology,
Yeah.
a company that's really been around forever in the memory and storage industry.
Absolutely. Decades.
Yeah.
And we've got a really interesting mix of sources for this one. We've got company reports, financial forecasts, news articles, even some Wikipedia. So hopefully by the end of this, you'll have a much better idea of whether Micron stock belongs in your portfolio.
Yeah, I love it. It's like we've got all these different puzzle pieces, right? We're
Yeah.
trying to put it all together to
Jackson.
get a picture of this company. So maybe we should start with their history, right? Do a little bit of detective work, go way back.
Yeah. So Micron, they've been around since 1978.
Wow.
Started small in Boise, Idaho. Early days, lots of innovation, strategic partnerships, and that's how they grew, basically.
Yeah, and their history's not without, you know, some drama.
For sure.
Right. They made some interesting acquisitions. Lexar, back in 2006, helped them in that consumer flash memory market. But then they got rid of it later, 2017.
They did. They moved on.
They moved on, yeah.
More towards the enterprise level solution.
Right, right. And then there's that whole, like, collaboration with Intel.
Huge.
Yeah.
Those joint ventures, flash memory, pivotal move for them.
Absolutely. Leverage each other's strengths, stay ahead of the game.
Yeah. Rapidly changing industry.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
But it hasn't all been smooth sailing. I mean, there have been some challenges, especially recently, with those legal battles against Chinese companies.
Yeah.
Intense competition, geopolitical tensions. It's a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. It highlights how complex that global semiconductor industry is. And of course, there's the human element to it, too, right? You can't forget about that. The death of their former CEO, Steve Appleton.
Yeah.
Plane crash back in 2012. It reminds us that there are real people behind these businesses.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I think it's time to shift gears a little bit, maybe talk about their financial performance,
Yeah, for sure.
which, I mean, at the end of the day, it's really important for any investment, right?
Absolutely. Well, the recent analyst forecasts from TipRanks, they're pretty optimistic.
Oh, yeah.
They've given Micron a strong buy rating.
Right.
And their average price target suggests there's potential for almost a 29% upside.
A 29% upside.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that definitely gets my attention.
Right.
But, I mean, we know forecasts, right?
Yeah.
Got to look beyond the headlines.
Absolutely. You have to dig into the details. And thankfully, TipRanks breaks down the earnings and sales forecasts quarter by quarter,
Okay.
gives us a range of predictions, but there is some variance, of course,
Right.
which just shows that there's always uncertainty in the future.
Of course. Of course. So it's not just the direction, but it's also, like, how wide that potential range is.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, to really understand these forecasts, we got to look at their track record.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, like, how have they done compared to what people expected in the past?
Exactly. Have they been beating those earnings estimates, especially compared to their competitors?
Right.
Well, according to TipRanks, they've consistently outperformed the industry on that front.
Wow.
Suggests that they're pretty good at delivering on expectations.
Okay. That's definitely a good sign. But I'm also curious about their innovation pipeline. Are they investing in new technology, something that will keep them ahead of the curve?
Yeah, that's a great question. And their 2024 sustainability report, it sheds some light on that. They're really focusing on energy-efficient memory solutions,
Okay.
which makes sense with all the data centers and AI applications out there.
Sure, using tons of power.
Tons of power. And they specifically highlight the Micron 9400 SSD,
Okay.
designed to dramatically reduce those data center cooling costs.
Wow.
And at the same time, it delivers exceptional performance. So it's good for the planet and it's good for business.
Yeah, everybody wins. I like that.
Exactly. Then there's HBM3E memory,
Okay.
cutting-edge technology, designed specifically for high-performance computing. So, things like AI and machine learning, speed and efficiency are paramount there.
Right. So it sounds like they're being strategic about, finding those high growth markets.
Absolutely.
But to really figure out if this is a good investment, we need to talk valuation, right?
We do. Unfortunately, the sources you've provided don't give us the kind of granular financial data you need for a full valuation analysis.
Okay.
So to really get a complete picture, we'd have to look at things like their price-to-earnings ratio, the debt levels, and compare those to industry benchmarks and their competitors.
Yeah. So we've got a good sense of their history, their innovation, the market sentiment.
Yeah.
But we need to do a little more digging into their financials before we can say, hey, their current valuation, is it justified or not?
Exactly. And I think that brings us to another important area.
Okay.
Their recent acquisitions and expansions. That gives us some insight into their strategic direction.
Right. So like where they're putting their money, where they're focusing their efforts.
Exactly. So we've got some data from Traxen, but the excerpt we have is pretty limited.
Okay.
We do know they've been active on the acquisition front. And their 2013 acquisition of Elpida Memory,
Right.
Japanese company,
Big move.
big strategic move, expanded their global reach and production capacity.
Makes sense.
Now, the 2021 sale of one of their semiconductor factories to Texas Instruments,
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Seems a little counterintuitive, right?
it does at first glance, yeah.
Yeah.
But it probably means they were streamlining their operations,
Okay.
focusing on their core strengths.
Makes sense. Makes sense. But their big recent development.
Huge.
Yeah. Was those U.S. memory plants, right?
Massive investment. $40 billion to build new memory manufacturing facilities.
Wow.
Idaho and New York. This is partly fueled by the Chia-Chies Act.
Right.
Shows their commitment to domestic manufacturing.
Absolutely.
Belief in the long-term growth of the U.S. semiconductor industry.
Yeah. And I mean, that investment, it's a huge signal, right?
Yeah.
Not just about their own confidence,
Yeah.
but also what it means for, the economy, both nationally, globally.
Absolutely. It all ties back to the global economy.
Right.
And this ongoing digital transformation we're seeing. The demand for Micron's products, it's connected to all of that. Smartphones, cloud computing, AI, the Internet of Things.
It's all about data.
It's all about data. And those things need memory and storage, and that's what Micron provides.
Right. And then you throw the Chia-Chies Act into the mix.
Right. Strategic government initiative trying to boost U.S. semiconductor manufacturing,
Absolutely.
reducing our reliance on foreign suppliers,
Creating jobs. Yeah.
and ultimately making the U.S. more competitive in the global tech landscape.
Right. Right. So it's not just economics, right?
Yeah.
There's a geopolitical angle to this too.
Huge geopolitical implications.
Yeah. I mean, tensions between the U.S. and China, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And semiconductors are right at the center of that rivalry.
They are. I mean, look what happened in May 2023. China bans Micron products from key infrastructure,
Yeah.
citing national security concerns. I mean, come on.
It was widely seen as retaliation
Oh, yeah.
for the U.S. restrictions on Chinese tech companies. And, it just highlights the risks of operating in such a politically charged environment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You can't ignore that. It can have a real impact. So we've talked about acquisitions, expansion plans,
Yeah.
how those tie in to the broader economic and geopolitical trends.
Yeah.
But what about their commitment to, those ESG factors?
Yeah. Important for a lot of investors these days.
Absolutely.
Want to make sure their money is going to companies that align with their values. And thankfully, Micron's 2024 sustainability report has a ton of information on this. They've got ambitious goals in all those areas: renewable energy, water stewardship, waste management, diversity, inclusion, ethical governance.
So they're really hitting all the bases there.
They are. For instance, they're aiming for 100% renewable electricity sourcing in the U.S. by the end of 2025.
Wow. Ambitious.
It is. And they've already hit that target in Malaysia.
Really?
Yeah, so it shows they're serious about reducing their environmental footprint.
Okay. Okay, so what about water? I mean, semiconductor manufacturing uses a lot of water.
It does, which is why they're focusing on conservation. Their goal is to reuse, recycle, or restore 75% of the water they use by 2030.
Okay.
And they're already at 66%.
Wow.
So they're making good progress. And then there's waste management.
Yeah.
95% diversion from landfills by 2030.
Wow. So tangible commitments to minimize their environmental impact.
Absolutely. And they're not forgetting the social side either. They talk a lot about diversity and inclusion in their report.
Okay.
They've got programs to support women and underrepresented groups in STEM.
Right.
They're increasing their spending with diverse-owned suppliers.
Awesome.
And their commitment to ethical governance, well, that's been recognized by Ethisphere. They named Micron one of the world's most ethical companies.
Wow. That's a big deal.
It is. Shows they're upholding high standards of conduct across the board.
So overall, it seems like Micron's got a pretty positive ESG profile.
It does. And that's likely to appeal to investors who prioritize those factors.
Absolutely. It gives you a more complete picture of the company.
Yeah, beyond just the numbers.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, maybe it's time now to, weigh the pros and cons of owning their stock.
Yeah.
Get a sense of the potential benefits and risks.
Sounds good. I think one of the strongest arguments for investing in Micron is their potential for growth.
Okay.
We've talked about it.
Yeah.
High demand market. That need for memory and storage solutions is only going up. Cloud computing, AI, Internet of Things.
It's only going to get bigger.
Exactly. And their track record.
Yeah.
Financially, they've been strong. Analyst outlook is positive.
That's right.
Consistently beating earnings estimates. Shows they're efficient, they're adaptable.
Right.
And then there's their commitment to innovation,
Yeah.
especially in energy-efficient technology.
Right. And that's not just good for the planet.
No.
It's a good business decision.
It gives them a competitive edge.
Absolutely. And that positive ESG profile we talked about, that's a big plus for a lot of investors.
Definitely. But we also need to be realistic about the downsides.
Right.
There are risks involved. One of the biggest ones is the volatility of the semiconductor industry.
Sure.
We've seen it. Their stock price can swing pretty wildly based on global economics, supply chains, consumer demand, even geopolitics.
Yeah. And speaking of geopolitics, those tensions with China, that's another risk factor.
Big one. Those trade disputes, the security concerns, they can have a real impact on their operations and profitability.
Absolutely. Investors can't ignore that.
And then there's the legal stuff.
Right.
They've navigated some challenges in the past, but there's always the potential for future legal battles.
Sure.
Domestically, internationally.
Yeah. Uncertainty. So Micron's story, it's this mix of like potential and risk.
Yeah.
Right. It's the balancing act. So how do our listeners, how do they figure out if this stock is right for them?
It comes down to knowing yourself.
Okay.
What are your investment goals?
Right.
What's your risk tolerance?
Yeah.
Are you looking for long-term growth?
Right.
Are you more focused on income?
Sure.
Can you handle the ups and downs of the semiconductor market?
Absolutely. These are all important questions.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, we've covered a lot, but there's one piece missing, right?
Yeah, there is.
Their dividend policy.
Right.
And share buyback programs.
Yeah, that's right. And unfortunately, the sources we have don't go into detail on those.
Okay.
But it's important information for investors, especially those who are looking for income.
Yeah. Or who want to see the company investing in itself.
Exactly. So we'll need to dig a little deeper to find those details.
Absolutely. Look at their investor relations materials, their financial filings, maybe talk to a financial advisor.
Yeah, good idea.
It's always better to have all the facts
Absolutely.
before you make any decisions.
For sure. It's kind of like we're missing a couple of puzzle pieces, right? But those pieces could be, really important
Yeah.
for understanding how Micron thinks about shareholder value, their financial strategy.
So we've got their history, innovations, strategic moves.
Right.
But now let's zoom in on those missing pieces.
Yeah.
Dividend policy and share buybacks. I mean, those are key parts of the financial picture.
Absolutely. For anyone who's investing for income, dividends are huge. It's a stream of cash flow directly from the company's profits. So we need to know, what's their dividend history? What's the current yield?
Right.
Are they planning to increase it, decrease it? All those things matter.
And for growth investors, share buybacks are a big deal, right?
Definitely. It means the company thinks their stock is undervalued. They're putting their money where their mouth is.
Right.
Buying back shares, which theoretically should increase the value of the remaining shares.
Right. So everyone who's holding Micron stock benefits.
Potentially.
Yeah, potentially. Okay, so how do we find this information?
Well, we might need to do some digging. Check their investor relations website, their financial filings.
Okay.
Maybe even talk to a financial advisor, get some personalized advice.
Always a good idea. It's better to have all the facts, right?
Definitely.
Before you make any big investment decisions.
Absolutely. While we're tracking down those details, maybe we should zoom out again, look at the bigger picture.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that.
It's fascinating how all these pieces connect, It tells a story about where Micron fits in the market.
Right. So we've seen how they've grown, their innovations, their acquisitions.
Yeah.
That's led them to this portfolio of products and services. They're really key players in those high-growth markets, right?
They are. Cloud computing, AI, Internet of Things.
Data.
Exactly. And that commitment to building those U.S. memory plants, putting $40 billion on the table, it says a lot about their belief in the future of the semiconductor industry, right?
Yeah. And their role in driving innovation here in the U.S.
Absolutely. But it's not just about technology and market opportunities.
Right.
We've also seen how they're dealing with, the geopolitical stuff, the ethical questions that come with being a global leader in this industry.
Absolutely.
Their response to that Chinese ban, it shows they're resilient, they can adapt.
Yeah. They're not giving up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And their sustainability report, all those commitments to sustainability, diversity, inclusion,
Right.
it shows they want to be a responsible company.
Yeah. And that matters to a lot of investors these days.
It does. So, we're back to that central question.
Okay.
Is Micron stock right for your portfolio?
The million-dollar question.
Yeah. And unfortunately, there's no one-size-fits-all answer. It really depends on you, the investor.
Right. It's a personal decision.
Absolutely. It's like putting together a puzzle.
Yeah.
Each piece represents a different aspect of the company.
Right.
And you don't see the full picture until you've put all the pieces together.
But even then, the picture keeps changing, right?
It does. New information comes out, market conditions shift, the company adapts.
So it's like, how do you even approach this decision?
I think the first step is to really understand your own investing style.
Okay.
What are you looking for? Steady growth.
Right. Yeah.
Are you okay with higher risk for potentially higher returns?
Yeah.
Do you want dividends?
Right.
Do you care about share buybacks?
Okay, so once you know what you're looking for, you can start to evaluate Micron.
Exactly. Look at their growth potential. How volatile is the semiconductor industry?
Yeah.
What's their track record? How committed are they to ESG?
Right.
And then, of course, there are those missing pieces we talked about.
The dividends and buybacks.
Yeah. Once you have all that, you can decide if their approach to shareholder value aligns with your expectations.
Right. It's a lot to consider.
It is. But taking the time to really research and understand Micron, it'll help you make a more informed decision.
Absolutely. And you'll feel more confident about it, too.
Exactly. And if you need help, don't be afraid to reach out to a financial advisor.
Yeah, or someone who really knows the industry.
Yeah, they can give you personalized guidance.
So this deep dive, it's given us a good overview of Micron.
Yeah.
But it's just the beginning. Your investment journey, it doesn't end here.
The world of finance, it's always changing.
Right.
You got to stay informed, keep up with market trends, industry news, and of course, anything Micron announces.
Right. And, don't be afraid to reevaluate your decisions.
Absolutely. As new information comes out, as your own circumstances change,
Yeah.
you want to make sure your investments still make sense for you.
Absolutely. It's not a set it and forget it kind of thing.
No. Investing is a marathon, not a sprint. Patience, research, being willing to learn and adapt, those are the keys to success.
This deep dive into Micron, it's given us a glimpse into this world of semiconductors.
Yeah, it's a fascinating world.
It is, and full of potential.
It is. But like with any investment, you got to weigh the rewards and the risks.
Absolutely. And then make decisions that fit your own strategy.
Exactly. So now it's up to you, our listeners.
Right.
Do your own research on Micron, dig into those financials, look at their dividend policy, their share buyback program,
Right.
and then decide if this company deserves a spot in your portfolio.
Okay, so we've really gone deep on Micron, haven't we?
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground. History, financials, innovation.
Their place in the whole semiconductor landscape.
Talked about their strengths, like that solid financial track record, their focus on energy-efficient tech. But we also looked at the challenges, like those geopolitical tensions.
And just how volatile that semiconductor industry can be.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, it's about our listeners making informed decisions, right?
Yeah, figuring out if Micron is the right fit for their own portfolio.
Because investing is personal.
It really is. No one-size-fits-all approach.
Exactly. So as we wrap this up, let's give our listeners some tools to keep digging into Micron.
Sounds good.
If they want to know more about those dividends and buybacks, where should they start?
I'd head straight to Micron's investor relations website. Most companies have a whole section dedicated to that stuff.
Yeah, so you can find their dividend history, the yield, any plans for future payments.
Exactly. And if they've got a share buyback program going, you can usually find details on that too.
Like how much they're buying back and when. Essential info for income investors or anyone who wants to see the company putting its money where its mouth is.
Absolutely. And another great resource is the SEC website.
The Securities and Exchange Commission.
That's right. Public companies like Micron, they have to file all their financial statements there.
Earnings reports, all that good stuff.
It's a goldmine if you want to really dive deep into their numbers, understand their financial health.
And then beyond those official sources, you've got analysts, experts, all those financial news sites.
Right. Following them on social media, subscribing to newsletters, going to conferences.
It's a great way to stay on top of the industry, hear different perspectives.
Yeah, and knowledge is power, right? The more you know, the better decisions you can make.
Couldn't agree more. And I think, as you're learning more about Micron, it's good to keep the bigger picture in mind.
Oh, absolutely.
Think about those big trends shaping the tech world. Data storage, processing power, AI, everything's connected.
Micron's getting on the future of data,
They are.
and their success is tied to how these technologies grow.
So when you're thinking, should I invest in Micron? Maybe ask yourself, do I believe in that future, that data-driven economy?
Yeah. And do you think Micron can be a leader in that world?
The answer to those questions can really guide your decision.
Absolutely.
Well, I think we've given everyone a lot to chew on today, a solid foundation to understand Micron.
Yeah, the factors that are driving their business.
And as always, we encourage everyone to keep learning, keep exploring, and invest wisely.
That's the key.
Now, before we go, if you enjoyed this deep dive, hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel. And let us know in the comments what you want us to cover next.
Yeah, we love hearing your suggestions, always looking for new companies, new industries to explore.
Until next time, happy investing, everybody.
Happy investing.